The holidays are here at the Home Depot, so let's get to decorating. Find your perfect tree in our huge assortment of shapes, sizes, and styles. Like the easy-to-assemble Jackson Noble Fir with pre-lit branches perfect for styling with all your favorite ornaments. Or the flocked Starry Light Fraser Fir with over 1,900 pre-lit memory wire branches that keep their shape so it's ready right out of the box.
Ooh.
Find the perfect tree now at the Home Depot and enjoy free delivery on most holiday decor. Subject to availability. See homedepot.com/delivery for details.
At Navy Federal Credit Union, every day is Veterans Day. Navy Federal serves more than 2 million veterans by providing the support they need to succeed financially. They offer members exclusive rates, discounts, and perks. 45% of their employees are directly tied to the military, so Navy Federal understands the needs of the veterans they serve.
That's right. And Navy Federal donates to not-for-profits focused on veterans like The Mission Continues and Rebuilding Together. And remember that active duty veterans and their families can join Navy Federal. Learn more at NavyFederal.org/veterans. Navy Federal is insured by NCUA.
Are lingering depression symptoms affecting you? If you're on an antidepressant and still struggling with lingering depression symptoms, ask your doctor about a lift in relief with Vraylar, cariprazine. Vraylar is a prescription medicine approved for use with antidepressant medicines to treat major depressive disorder, MDD, in adults. Adding Vraylar to an antidepressant is clinically proven to help relieve overall depression symptoms better than an antidepressant alone. Results may vary. Vraylar is not approved in elderly patients with dementia-related psychosis or for people under 18. Elderly dementia patients have increased risk of death or stroke. Report unusual changes in behavior or suicidal thoughts. Antidepressants can increase these in children and young adults. Report fever, stiff muscles, or confusion, as these may be life-threatening, or uncontrolled muscle movements, which may be permanent. High blood sugar, which can lead to coma or death, weight gain, and high cholesterol may occur. Difficulty moving, tremors, slow or uncontrolled body movements, restlessness, feeling like you need to move around, nausea, constipation, insomnia, dizziness, increased appetite, and fatigue are common side effects. Side effects may not appear for several weeks. For a lift in relief, ask about adding Vraylar, Vraylar. Visit Vraylar.com or call 1-877-6-VRAYLAR to learn more.
1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men experience domestic abuse in their lifetime. And nearly half of survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Purina started the Purple Leash Project to help eliminate one of the many barriers domestic abuse survivors face: a lack of pet-friendly domestic violence shelters. Through the Purple Leash Project, Purina is helping to create more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters across the country, so abuse survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit Purina.com/purple to get involved.
When you choose to earn your degree online from Southern New Hampshire University, you're saying yes to new opportunities and to new adventures. You're saying yes to something big, something you've always wanted to do. If earning your degree is one of your goals this new year, SNHU can help you get there. With low online tuition, no set class times, and multiple term starts per year, you can set the pace that works for you and save money along the way. Visit snhu.edu today to get started.
Episode 458, The Key to Simple and Budget-Friendly Meal Plans with Mandy Klentz.
Welcome to the Frugal Friends podcast, where you'll learn to save money, embrace simplicity, and live a richer life. Here are your hosts, Jen and Jill.
Welcome to the Frugal Friends podcast. My name is Jen.
My name is Jill.
And today we are talking about a listener favorite topic, which is meal planning, specifically budget-friendly, with our friend PlandyMandy, Mandy Klentz.
It's such a good one. It's not just a listener favorite. It's our favorite thing to talk about food. And we really rapid fired a lot of questions at Mandy. Questions we were not prepared to ask, just decided to ask in the moment. And she rapid fired back at us.
Yeah.
Some really great stuff. So I'm glad we're here. I'm glad you're here. But first, this episode is brought to you by Shaking Things Up. Who doesn't love a fresh take, a little plot twist, a new perspective? It's what we need when we're in a food slump, and a little inspiration couldn't hurt in other parts of our lives as well, which is why we've written the Friendletter. We send it to your inbox for free 3 days a week with alerts of free food, ways to save money, and helpful perspectives on money. So get shook. get the Friendletter, frugalfriendspodcast.com. I rebranded it. You're
Oh, I love
welcome.
that.
Get shook.
I love that for you. All right. So if you are interested in lowering your grocery bill, then we have a ton of great episodes for you. We've got episode 416, Simplified Meal Planning, which we talk about low ingredient meal plans. Episode 433, Tips for Grocery Shopping on a Budget, where we talk about specifically being in the store grocery shopping or on the app grocery shopping. And then episode 354, Meal Planning for People Who Hate to Cook. Which is similar to us. So we talk about some tips to get that. Make a meal plan that's sustainable that you will stick to. That's really the highlight of that episode, is sticking to. So Mandy Klentz, she is a stay-at-home mom turned frugal grocery shopping expert. And on her platform, PlandyMandy, she shares budgeting tips, systems, and recipes every day. She's passionate about saving money and helping other people learn the skills that she has. And we had a really great interview with her. So I'm excited to share it with you.
Let's get into it.
Mandy, welcome to the Frugal Friends podcast. We are so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Food is my favorite thing to talk about. And we have to eat it every day. Food decisions happen daily. So if we can help ourselves make better spending decisions, just better food decisions, I'm here for it. So I'm so excited to have you.
Yes. Yes. Food is life. It's like you can't really avoid it, especially when it comes to your budget.
Yes. All right. So give us a little background. What led you to being passionate about budget-friendly meal planning?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to say that it was something that I just enjoyed doing. Like, oh, I love being in the kitchen. But in all honesty, I got into budget cooking because I was a really young mom of 3 kids. I had all 3 of my kids by the time I was 24. And my husband and I were kind of drowning financially. And I was in this position where I couldn't really work outside of the home because I wasn't going to make more than what childcare was going to cost. And so I kind of had to start getting creative and thinking, how can I help our finances without actually making more money? And what felt in my control at that time was cooking and dropping our grocery budget. And so that was about 10 years ago. That's kind of where it all started. And I didn't grow up cooking or learning how to cook. And so over the last decade, it's just kind of been me figuring it out as I go and getting a little bit better each week.
Yeah, that's amazing that you were able to identify that at such a young age. We talk about the big 3 on this podcast, of the things that take up the majority of our budget being housing, transportation, and food costs, and food being the one thing that we can have a little bit more control over in the day-to-day. Certainly it's important to make good housing and transportation decisions, but these are decisions that we're being faced with regularly. So to be able to identify that at such a young age, that this is an area where I can make some big shifts and really see it take root in our finances and see it benefit our family is really amazing. And that you did that 10 years ago, I imagine that's still helpful for you now, seeing the rising costs of food now, like you're already prepared for it.
Oh, absolutely. My husband and I talk often that, of course, we would never want to go back to that phase where we were struggling so much, but it changed the rest of our life with how we deal with our money. I think anyone who's gone through a phase of being broke, quote unquote, it really makes you more responsible when you grow in the future and have more income to deal with. You're not broke anymore, but you kind of still understand the responsibility factor because you never want to go back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any funny stories from when you first started trying to get your grocery budget together, like big mistake you made or something that you like overcame that you look back now on and it was maybe devastating then, but it's funny now?
Yeah, I mean, my mind immediately goes to chili relleno casserole, which I'm sure makes no sense. But when I was first learning how to cook, you don't have the disposable income to mess up, is really what it comes down to. So I was cooking because we needed the money. But if I messed up, the stakes felt really high. And this one night, I made chili relleno casserole, and I thought it was going to be so great. And I brought it out to my husband, and I was kind of looking at it like, that's not what that's supposed to look like. And we both kind of had this moment where we're like, well, we're eating this because we don't have money to go get anything else. But also, this definitely was not what it was supposed to be. I think just little moments like that where you really don't have the wiggle room. And so if you do mess up along the way, it's like, I guess we're eating like eggy soup with some peppers in it tonight. I'm so sorry.
Did you figure out like what went wrong, or you just like the recipe was just not it?
I have been so intimidated since that day. I've never even tried that recipe again. It was
yeah.
It was a nailed it moment. Like the
yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Got it. So you're about 10 years into now having meal planned in a budget friendly kind of way. I'm curious at this point, could you walk us through your typical meal planning process from start to finish? What does it look like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So whenever I talk about this, I always tell people, even as someone who's done it for 10 years, I really try and stay in the cycle of being a beginner, because I think that no matter how good you get at meal planning, you kind of become competitive with yourself and you can always save a little bit more. So I actually have 6 steps to an effective budget. And this is kind of how they go. And I'll summarize because it could be a whole lesson. But the first thing that I always start with is an audit. So basically figuring out what am I spending? And especially if you're new at budgeting, this is such an important step. Just tracking what you've actually spent in the last week or the last month so you can see where your improvement or your decline is. After I kind of figure out where I'm at, the second thing I do is I figure out areas of improvement. So where could I improve? Where did I overspend? Or what did I buy that wasn't necessary? Or what's a habit that's not helping my budget? Then I set goals where I want to change my budget for that following week. Something that I could improve, like maybe I'm going to eliminate a snack that I'm buying with a homemade recipe instead, little things like that. And then I use my systems. So I have developed a bunch of systems over the last 10 years that really just help me stick to the meal plan, because I think it's really easy to write stuff down. It's 100 times harder to actually follow through with it, especially if you're busy, especially if you have little kids. So I have some systems that I use, like a breakfast freezer stock, a cook once, eat twice meal plan type of thing. So I just figure out what I'm going to use for that week to help me stick to the plan. And then I actually write down my meal plan. So when I'm meal planning, I plan for a 7 to 10 day stretch at a time, really because I'm trying to stay out of the grocery store. The more often you go into the grocery store, the more money you're spending. It's just inevitable that we're going to walk down a hall or an aisle and just be, oh, I need mayo or I need this and that looks good. So I try and stay out of the grocery store as much as I can just to reduce that impulse buying. So I plan 7 to 10 days at a time, and I actually write down a recipe for every meal of the day. So when I'm planning an individual day, I have a detailed breakfast, not anything extravagant, but just exactly what we're eating for that meal. I don't do any kind of rough planning like, oh, we have cereal or we have bagels. I really write down, we're going to have blueberry bagels with sausage links and Greek yogurt. We're going to have waffles with fresh fruit and yogurt. Yogurt's a big thing in my house, apparently. So I write that down for each meal of the day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So what I end up having is a 7 to 10 day stretch of 3 meals a day so that when I go grocery shopping, I can do a verified grocery list, which just means I'm actually in my kitchen. I do a lot of grocery shopping on apps. So I'm actually in my kitchen looking at my specific meals and only buying what I actually need from the store. So that's kind of the planning process. And when I go to implement it, it just gives me a lot of flexibility because I have all of those meals for that 7 to 10 day stretch. And if I have to move them around or shift things a little bit, I'm able to do that really easily because it's so in-depth.
Yeah, I love the in-depth breakfast, lunch, dinner, and I'll go with snacks too.
Mm-hmm.
I personally need that. Jill's like the opposite. She's kind of, the options and pick from.
No, loosey-goosey.
I need that structure, or I'll forget to eat and then I'll get hungry and then I'll need something bigger than what I had planned. And then things go awry. So yes, I love that point about really going in depth and making the specific. And obviously you can deviate from the plan, but if you don't have a plan to start with, you're like setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times where people fail with meal planning is it's not in depth enough. And then they hit what you're talking about, right? Like almost a defeated mindset because they're like, darn, now I'm hungry. I'm going to opt for stuff that I wouldn't have if I would have just had a plan to go with. So I'm going to go through the drive-through. By the way, like the average American family is spending about 10% of their annual income eating out. And I think a lot of that simply comes from having to find a plan B because they didn't really have the plan A to begin with. And so they're kind of in this like flying by the seat of their pants mode. And we just don't make the best financial decisions when we're in that mindset.
Yeah, I think you're accurate in saying it could sound as though you have to be a very specific personality type to be able to do this, like a type A person who is very detail oriented. But I appreciate that what you're describing is that if we don't do it that way and we just write down, oh, we're going to have like burritos, but we don't know whether or not we have the tortillas or the beans or the rice or the salsa, then we end up either not having it and scrapping the meal and then going out to eat, or if it's not written down and we've not done the inventory of what's in our pantries, we're then rebuying things that we don't need because we weren't so detailed with it. But to that point, I'm curious if you've run into this at all for people who might claim like, I can't be that detailed. I'm not that detailed of a person. Are there ways that we could kind of get over that hump?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I always tell people this really is a skill. It is. At the end of the day, it's a skill that you kind of have to learn and get a little bit better with each month. But for beginners, I say start small. I think when we're talking about grocery budgets, it's everybody's dream to go 0 to 100 and all of a sudden they're saving hundreds of dollars a month compared to the last month. I just don't think it's realistic because there are a lot of things that go into meal planning. Like as someone who's done it for 10 years, I kind of have a system for every meal of the day and snacks, and that didn't happen overnight. So my biggest suggestion is to start small and tackle one thing at a time. So if you're someone who can't make a 7 to 10 day stretch, because maybe just cooking that much is overwhelming to you and you don't know how you're going to do that, eliminate one day a week that you're eating out. Plan one extra meal per week where you're like, okay, this day I'm not eating out and I'm going to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner from home. And then once you master that and it feels a little more capable, add another day on for that next week and just kind of tackle it in baby steps rather than trying to do one big overhaul. It's just going to be much more realistic for the average person.
Whether you're starting or scaling your company's security program, demonstrating top-notch security practices and establishing trust is more important than ever. Vanta automates compliance for ISO 27001, SOC 2, GDPR, and more, saving you time and money while helping you build customer trust. Plus, you can streamline security reviews by automating questionnaires and demonstrating your security posture with a customer-facing trust center, all powered by Vanta AI. Over 8,000 global companies like Atlassian, Flow Health, and Quora use Vanta to manage risk and improve security in real time. Our audience gets a special offer of $1,000 off Vanta at vanta.com/special. That's VANTA.com/special for $1,000 off.
The holidays are officially here at the Home Depot, which means it's time to deck the halls and your home with festive cheer. If you're on the hunt for the perfect tree, we've got you covered. Explore our huge assortment of trees in all shapes, sizes, and styles. Designed to fit any holiday vibe and every holiday budget, like the Jackson Noble Fir. It's not only super easy to assemble, but it also comes pre-lit with 1,200 color-changing bulbs and multiple lighting functions. Or maybe the flocked Starry Light Fraser fir is more your style. With over 1,900 pre-lit memory wire branches that hold their shape, this tree's ready to shine right out of the box.
Ooh, wow.
Whether it's trees, wreaths, or twinkling lights, we've got everything you need to make your home holiday ready. So shop now at HomeDepot.com and enjoy free delivery on most holiday decor. Subject to availability, see HomeDepot.com/delivery for details.
Are you ready to move easily and independently without pain or stiffness holding you back? Do you want to look in the mirror and see a hydrated glow instead of fine lines and wrinkles? Now you can with Native Path's collagen. This product will help improve your cartilage, bones, skin, hair, nails, and gut. And it's a single ingredient formula with no fillers, heavy metals, additives, or artificial sweeteners, ensuring complete purity and safety. Unlike others on the market, Native Path's collagen is completely flavorless and dissolves easily into anything. Coffee, smoothies, oatmeal, you name it. The best part? Native Path offers amazing bundle deals. You can get 3 or 6 packs at a fraction of the price of other brands. With over 4 million jars sold, 1 million happy customers, and a no-risk guarantee, visit getnativepath.com/radio to stock up on collagen for an incredible 45% off, plus free shipping. Getnativepath.com/radio.
For many of us, the holiday season means more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more of your personal information in more places you can't control. It only takes one innocent mistake, even if it's not your mistake, to expose you to identity theft. Not to worry, LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points every second and alerts you to threats you could miss by yourself, even if you keep an eye on your bank and credit card statements. If your identity is stolen, your own U.S.-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed. The last thing you want to do this holiday season is face drained accounts, fraudulent loans, or other financial losses from identity theft all alone. Gift yourself the peace of mind that comes with LifeLock and spend more time doing more of the holiday things you love. Visit lifelock.com/iHeart and save up to 40% your first year. That's 40% off at lifelock.com/iHeart. LifeLock, for the threats you can't control.
Hey, it's Austin James. If you're like me, trying to live your best life while living with diabetes, you can relate to worrying if you're doing a good job managing your diabetes. I use the Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor to get real-time glucose readings and see the impact of every meal and activity to make better decisions. The Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor can help me live life with diabetes on my own terms, and it gives me more time for the things I love, like being a dad and a musician. Now this is progress. Learn more at freestylelibre.us.
For prescription only. Safety info found at freestylelibre.us.
Okay, so let's talk about these systems that you were mentioning, because the biggest barrier to meal planning, especially when you're trying to get like in depth, is the time that it takes to plan and setting that time aside every Saturday or Sunday to make the plan. And it can take a long time if you're not like working with systems. So like, what do you do to make this like sustainable?
Yeah. My biggest tip is to make your time that you are spending in the kitchen count for multiple meals. To give an example, a lot of times people just plan on making a breakfast, right? And they're in the kitchen. Let's say they're making blueberry pancakes. They make the blueberry pancakes. The meal's done. Now they have to clean it all up. My mindset is to sort of make that time that you're making blueberry pancakes count for a ton of future days. So you're already there. You're already in the kitchen making the batter, making the mess, having to do all the cooking. Instead of just making blueberry pancakes for that day, let's make an extra 3 dozen. That sounds crazy, but when you actually look at the time it's taking, it's really not adding much more time because you were already there doing all of the starting steps. So following through with a couple extra batches of pancakes, it's saving you the time in the future. I always say my future self will thank me for making these snacks. Just systems that duplicate recipes in really large batches is my biggest tip. I use this for breakfast. I have something called a breakfast freezer stock. And basically what it means is exactly what I just explained. Anytime I'm making something for breakfast, because this is a huge way to reduce your budget, homemade breakfast items are pennies on the dollar compared to what you're spending at the store. And most of them are so simple. And so whenever I'm making something, I make at least 2 batches, sometimes 3, and then I throw them in my freezer. And on busy mornings when I don't have time to think about all of this, because that's just reality, I can take something out of the freezer stock that I made a couple weeks ago, pop it in my microwave or my toaster oven, and I'm sticking to my plan because I created my own convenience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of the things that stands out to me about what you're doing and some of the systems that you've created is both the meal planning and the budget friendly aspect of it. I feel like I have just recently been able to combine the two, but I think oftentimes when we start out, it's meal planning. I can make a meal plan, I can look up recipes and but then ingredients from one thing don't carry over to the next. And a lot of times we'll only meal plan for dinner. I don't know why, but most of us eat 3 meals a day, maybe 2, but still there's more than just dinner and snacks that we're eating. And so I'm curious for you how that merges, how you are able to, when you're sitting down to make a meal plan, combining it with this is going to be cost effective too.
Yeah. So I always say I'm an ingredient household. I make a lot of things homemade. And to some people that feels really overwhelming because they immediately think that takes a ton of time. But basically the way that I have molded the two together is I've learned how to make really basic things from ingredients rather than buying those pre-made at the store, like muffins, simple things like that, but also doing it in that batch style cooking. So the way I've been able to combine it is kind of taking 2 different systems and melding them into one, because you have those people on Instagram, like the Nora Smiths. They're making all of these homemade things. Mine aren't extravagant though. I think the biggest key to success is almost lowering your standard. Instead of trying to meal plan these extravagant meals, what if we just meal planned simple things? Because when you go simple, the ingredients are basic and it's cheap, but also it's easy to make and it's easy to batch prep. And then you can kind of meld the two into one.
Mm-hmm. How much time would you say you are spending both meal planning and prepping all of these ingredients and meals?
Yeah, the meal planning itself is honestly not that much time. I think especially once you get in the routine of knowing what your family enjoys, like for our breakfast items, I kind of have my 5 to 7 go-to things and we just rotate through those. So for me, that is more of an autopilot thing. The dinners, my business is based around writing a whole new meal plan for people every month. So I do have to get more creative with that probably than the average person. So I can't put the same thing out every month. But I would say overall, maybe like 30 minutes to an hour a week where I'm like actually planning out what we're eating. And then as far as the cooking, for someone who has a cooking platform, I hate being in the kitchen. It is probably my least favorite place to be. So I don't even cook every day because I'm using that batch prepping. So I cook dinner about every other night. I cook breakfast, like those big bulk batches, maybe 3 times a month. And then lunch is usually just simple things that I'm throwing together. So I really am not spending a ton of time in the kitchen. I would gamble to say even less time than the average person who's not meal planning.
Can you give us some examples of your throw together lunches? This is just for me.
Yeah,
really.
Absolutely.
Lunch is such a stumper for me.
You're probably going to be underwhelmed by what I say because simplicity is my go-to. I always try and pair high protein. So salami, cheese, crackers. That's one of my kids' favorites. Quesadillas and guac with some kind of, fresh fruit and maybe like a Greek yogurt dip. My kids love leftovers for some reason. So we'll do like we had a Friendsgiving this last weekend. So we've been reheating the meat and the side dishes from that. I hate wasting food. So that's always my go-to stuff that's prepared. Chicken salads, big batches of chicken salads, simple things that are kind of almost pre-assembled or just really easy to throw together. 'Cause we're on the go a lot. So we just don't have time. I see a lot of really extravagant prepped lunches, and I think that's wonderful. I'm a family of 5 with 3 kids, and so it's just not as easily to implement for me. So I go simple. Components. Components are a big key. So keeping things in your fridge, like I do a big batch of hard-boiled eggs every weekend to last us the whole week. I have prepared, fresh, washed fruits ready to go in the fridge. Everything's kind of like prepared so that when we're in that rush and we need something fast for lunch, we can grab it, throw it on a plate, eat it, and be done.
And what does your prep look like? So I know you're doing those breakfast bulk batches like 3 times a month, but how long does your weekly prep take and kind of what does it look like?
So I don't do it all at once. And I will say that I think that is really important for the average family. I'm not one of those people who spends 5 hours on a Sunday doing stuff, because I don't want to spend 5 hours on my Sunday doing that. And I don't think anybody else does either. So kind of what my routine is when we come home from the grocery store, as I'm unpacking everything, that's when I'm sort of rinsing and washing my fruits, throwing them in the containers, getting them in the fridge. That's my routine with that. And then my dinners, like I told you, is about every other night. And the breakfast prep, I tend to try and double down. So I will say we're having those blueberry pancakes for breakfast. And as we're having that for breakfast is when I'm also making those extra batches and getting them in the freezer. So the sacrifice there would maybe be, I'm not sitting down and having that blueberry pancake breakfast with my family. I'm in the kitchen and talking to them as they're eating their pancakes, and I'm making those extra batches to get them in the freezer. So I try and do it in little spurts rather than one big trip, so that it kind of fits a little better into our busy schedule.
Yeah, but then you can have like 7 other blueberry pancake breakfasts with them because you're not making more.
Yes. And so I think most people have kids, they're getting out the door to school in the morning. Or if you don't have kids, you're still trying to get out the door to work. So my thing is, I want to be able to have a well-rounded breakfast in 5 minutes on a busy morning. And so when you have things like those pancakes in your freezer, you're able to wake up, they reheat perfectly in the microwave, toss them with a little bit of Greek yogurt and fresh fruit. Homemade pancakes are significantly more nutritious. And you have a well-rounded breakfast and you warmed it up in 30 seconds in the microwave and tossed it on a plate. So that is really, I always think about my future self. I'm like, okay, yes, I'm making 3 dozen pancakes right now instead of sitting down and eating these pancakes with my family. However, on those mornings when I'm trying to get everything going, I'm able to have breakfast in 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm. One of my biggest barriers when it comes to meal planning is the inspiration week to week, month to month. I will often just go, I do keep a written list similar to my spending plan. It's all just written down with pen and paper. But I will write down, like, what are we going to do? I just do lunch and dinner because breakfast is like always the same.
Yeah.
But I just feel like I get in such a rut where I then will just redo the last 2 weeks. And that works for a time, but I feel like the flexibility, the variety is also what I'm looking for. I'm curious how you do that since you've said you have to put a little bit more effort than maybe the average person to get content out to your followers. Where do you find inspiration for meal ideas? What tips do you have to kind of spark that creativity in the kitchen?
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, I have my go-tos as well, just stuff that I kind of keep in the back pocket when I can't fill those last couple of days. The spaghettis and the chilies of the world that everybody is used to throwing in. I think when you're really in a rut, I always suggest Pinterest to people. You have people on Pinterest like me, right, who their job is to kind of come up with food ideas, and you can use it as a keyword search. I think a lot of people are kind of sleeping on Pinterest a little bit because they're not actually using it the way that it works best. So if you're trying to come up with meals, you can plug in chicken pasta recipe, beef protein recipe, and it pulls up stuff almost like a chat GPT would, and you have the recipes ready to go right there. Personally, for me, I try and mix flavors together. So I'll give you an example. A couple weeks ago, I had a second pack of ravioli, tortellini type of things because I bought a 2-pack from Costco. But my kids really wanted my homemade mac and cheese. And I was like, I'm going to combine these 2 things. Like, you can't go wrong with a tortellini pasta, but then making it as a mac and cheese recipe. And I sort of just combined the 2 flavors together and I made a tortellini mac and cheese.
Whoa.
So it was delicious, by the way.
Yeah, that is the amount of cheese that cheese needs. Yeah.
Yes, it was my daughter. She's our carb monster and she was in heaven. Yes. She loved it. But I just try and mix flavors to come up with something a little different. I also love a good protein that's really flexible. One of the things that I have done in some of my newer meal plans is something that I call a variation option. And I think that this is really helpful for exactly what you're talking about, which is like burnout of certain flavors. So for me, I don't like cooking every day. So I tend to double batch a recipe. So if I'm making, just basic beef tacos, I'm going to double that basic beef taco recipe so that we can have a second meal from it later in the week. But some people don't like having the same thing 2 times. And so I started giving a variation option. And it was basically, hey, here's these components you already had for this first meal. I'm using tacos as an example because it's just simple and everybody knows what I'm saying. But you had these beef tacos. And now this second meal, here's what you need to add these 2 things to turn it into a beef burrito bowl or enchiladas. Kind of taking those same things that you already spent time prepping, but turning it into a new meal so it tastes a little bit different and you're not having to have that burnout flavor.
I think what you are saying is the key. I think it's the key to this episode because we always say how in frugality, the real way to save money is to give yourself parameters that foster creativity. When we always have money in order to solve our problems, then we don't give ourselves the space to get creative to save money in certain ways. And a lot of times that those restrictions are, imposed by the money that we have. But even when we increase our incomes, we want to self-impose those restrictions to continue to not let our lifestyles inflate, right? And so what you're doing is you are prioritizing space to be creative. And that's how you come up with things like tortellini mac and cheese, right? It's not something you maybe will do all the time or whatever, but it's this space to get creative with the variations, the repurposing and all that. Like at the end of the day, that's going to be like the real key to reducing your food waste and eating more of the foods you have at home.
I feel like that repurposing piece is a hard one to teach. I think it aligns with what you're saying, Mandy, that this is a skill that we can build over time. But with that, I'm curious if you have anything to say about prioritizing repurposing ingredients throughout the week. Some simple tips on how to think about this, because I know you've also mentioned eliminating food waste, and that's part of this equation and keeping this kind of budget-friendly meal planning. So when we sit down and make a meal plan, rather than just, oh, that looks good and that looks good and that looks good, any quick tips for us on how we can make sure these ingredients flow through the week, that we aren't wasting stuff?
Absolutely. So the first thing is similar proteins. I think we kill our grocery budget a lot when we try and have too much variety in one grocery shopping trip. Because when you think about it, the best, most frugal way to buy proteins is in bulk. I buy a lot of my protein at Costco. When you're doing that though, if you're then saying, oh, we're going to have a steak meal and a chicken meal and a pork meal and a ground beef meal, you're having to buy a lot at one time. And not that it won't get used, right? Because you can use your meat, for a long period of time. But for me, I really try and stick to a solid weekly budget. My family, I try and spend just $80 a week on our dinners. So if I'm trying to fit all of that diversity into one week, it's blowing my grocery budget up. And I think a lot of times we then forget it's in the freezer, we don't use it, it doesn't sound good. So I try and stick to similar proteins. So let's say in the week, I'm like, okay, I'm going to make chicken and beef meals this week. And it helps me narrow in on what I'm buying. Also, a lot of times you have side dishes that you can use for multiple meals. So especially during the summer seasons, any season, but my family loves a good cold pasta salad. And during the summer, we tend to have that more often with the warmer weather. But I know that pasta salad recipe is huge and we're not eating that in just one meal. So I will tend to side share, meaning like I make that big batch of pasta salad and it's a side dish for a couple of different meals that we're having during the week. I think a lot of side dishes can reheat perfectly to do that side share so that you're not wasting food and making a big old batch of something and then tossing it the next day. And then also similar produce. So things like bell peppers. One bell pepper right now at the store is like $1.50 to $1.80, but you can get a 3-pack for like $3. So I tend to opt for the 3-pack. And maybe I'm making a couple different meals that week that include bell peppers. So just kind of trying to take what you have on your grocery list and make multiple meals out of it instead of having a ton of variety, because you inevitably will have to buy more than what you're probably going to use in that recipe. And then if you don't have plans for the rest of it, it's going to waste. And my biggest pet peeve is throwing food away because you're literally dumping dollars in the trash can.
Mm-hmm. And like you said earlier, ChatGPT and Pinterest and just the internet can be really helpful with this. If we don't have the ideas in our brains, okay, I've got one extra bell pepper and some shredded chicken. What do I do with this? And let the internet decide for you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You know what? I don't ever let the internet decide for me. So many things, but not this one thing. This needs to come right from the source.
And it brings variety.
Yeah.
The bill of the week.
That's right. It's time for the best minute of your entire week. Maybe a baby was born and his name is William. Maybe you paid off your mortgage. Maybe your car died and you're happy to not have to pay that bill anymore. Duck bills, Buffalo Bills, Bill Clinton. This is the bill of the week.
Mandy, every week we yell at our guests and our faithful listeners to share with us their bill for the week. And we would love to hear yours.
Okay, my bill of the week is a Friendsgiving bill. So my friends, we do a Friendsgiving celebration every year. And this year, I actually wrote a helpful holiday guide for the holidays. And I wanted to test it all out. And so I actually catered a Friendsgiving for about 13 people. And I made all of the side dishes for $70. So we had a pumpkin cobbler with vanilla ice cream. We had a baked mac and cheese. We had a mashed potato casserole with homemade gravy. I made dinner rolls and biscuits and a garden salad. I had about 7 different side dishes that fed 13 people plus leftovers. And I only spent about $70 at the grocery store.
That's amazing. That's a great bill. I love that bill for feeding that many people. And you made all that food yourself?
Okay, it's honestly the simplest recipes, the biggest crowd pleasers, but yes, I did. I made all of those in about 2 hours to cater.
No.
Now, granted,
Jill and I are like, what?
What am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong?
I think most people aren't making that much food in one stretch. So I always had to say that. You could make a lot of those dishes in 10 to 15 minutes in the kitchen. I was catering almost the whole thing. So I did all of it in about 2.5 hours. Yeah. That doesn't include bake times for everything. Obviously, stuff had to get popped in the oven, but
We have to find more friends who have food Instagram accounts.
We have so many budgeting friends and minimalism friends. And you know, where we have really dropped the ball, Mandy, is food fluencers. And I think you have really lit the fire under us too.
We're moving your way.
Yeah, come on over to Kansas City. My friends, they definitely weren't upset when I said, hey, can we have a Friendsgiving in October so I can make all these dishes and try them out? They said, yes, absolutely.
What was your favorite thing that you made?
The pumpkin cobbler, honestly, I unfortunately had leftovers and I've been eating it every night since then. I can't even explain. So this pumpkin cobbler, it's very basic. Cobblers are so simple. So if you're a newbie at baking, you got to get this recipe. But essentially, when you go to bake it, you top it with, brown sugar and sugar. This is not a healthy one. And then you pour water over it, which sounds crazy. But what it does is when it bakes, it makes a caramel sauce that lines the whole bottom of the pan. So it's a pumpkin cobbler. And when you scoop it out, the whole underneath is like this gooey caramel. And then you serve it with warm vanilla ice cream. It made me say pumpkin pie who.
It sounds so good. I guarantee I would mess that up. Like the second you start to pour water over it, like I don't think it'd come out that way. It would be your chili rellenos for me. What is this mush?
I'm convinced it's a no-fail. I was skeptic the very first time I made it a long time ago. I was very skeptical to say, is this going to work out? Because this feels like a lot of water. but it basically goes around the batter and to the bottom.
I'm going to have to take your word for it. That's amazing, though, Mandy. Well done. For all of you listening, if you have a bill that you want to share, if it's about just dumping water over something and it turning into some sweet, sweet pumpkin goodness, or if it's about the money that you didn't have to spend this holiday season or the money you didn't mind spending, you know the drill. frugalfriendspodcast.com/bill. Leave us your bill. We can't wait for it.
The holidays are officially here at the Home Depot, which means it's time to deck the halls and your home with festive cheer. If you're on the hunt for the perfect tree, we've got you covered. Explore our huge assortment of trees in all shapes, sizes, and styles. Designed to fit any holiday vibe and every holiday budget, like the Jackson Noble Fir. It's not only super easy to assemble, but it also comes pre-lit with 1,200 color-changing bulbs and multiple lighting functions. Or maybe the flocked Starry Light Fraser fir is more your style. With over 1,900 pre-lit memory wire branches that hold their shape, this tree's ready to shine right out of the box.
Ooh, wow.
Whether it's trees, wreaths, or twinkling lights, we've got everything you need to make your home holiday ready. So shop now at HomeDepot.com and enjoy free delivery on most holiday decor. Subject to availability, see HomeDepot.com/delivery for details.
Are you tired of waking up feeling sore and stiff in the morning? Or maybe the words bone on bone are all too familiar. If you're over 50, chances are it has to do with the fact that your body isn't making as much of one specific type of protein as it used to. Dr. Chad Walding, a renowned doctor of physical therapy, says the overwhelming conversation he has with patients struggling with bone and joint issues has to do with this specific protein deficiency. The good news? Simply adding it back into your diet is scientifically backed to support bone density, soothe joint discomfort, and boost mobility. Plus, it's the most abundant protein in the body. So not only does it reinvigorate the body with denser bone health, but studies have shown dramatic improvements in hair, skin, nails, and digestion. Get the full story, free of charge, by visiting www.stopboneonbone.com/200. That website again is stopboneonbone.com/200.
Hey, it's Austin James. If you're like me, trying to live your best life while living with diabetes, you can relate to worrying if you're doing a good job managing your diabetes. I use the Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor to get real-time glucose readings and see the impact of every meal and activity to make better decisions. The Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor can help me live life with diabetes on my own terms, and it gives me more time for the things I love, like being a dad and a musician. Now this is progress. Learn more at freestylelibre.us.
For prescription only. Safety info found at freestylelibre.us.
Joel, as you know, my father served in the military. He was in satellite communications, SATCOM. I'm not sure if that's what they still call it these days.
Sounds cool.
But when I think about him, truly, and the other veterans I know, I'm reminded of their quiet strength, their resilience. Those are some of the qualities they carry with them long after their service ends. Well, at Navy Federal Credit Union, every day is Veterans Day, and they are proud to have served the military community for over 90 years.
Veterans Day only highlights Navy Federal's everyday commitment because Navy Federal serves more than 2 million veterans by providing the support they need to succeed financially. They offer members exclusive rates, discounts, and perks, and 45% of their employees are directly tied to the military. So Navy Federal understands the needs of the veterans they serve.
That's right. Navy Federal donates to not-for-profits focused on veterans like The Mission Continues and Rebuilding Together. It's good to see an organization prioritize those who have served our country. And remember that active duty veterans and their families can join Navy Federal Credit Union. Learn more at NavyFederal.org/veterans. Navy Federal is insured by NCUA.
Attention parents and grandparents. Are you searching for the perfect gift for your kids this holiday season? Give the gift of adventure that will last all year long. A Guardian bike. The easiest, safest, and quickest bikes for kids to learn on. Kids are learning to ride in just one day. No training wheels needed. What makes Guardian bikes special? They're the easiest to ride thanks to the thoughtful engineering, lightweight frames, and kid-friendly components. Kids love how fun and easy they are to ride. And parents appreciate the safety features, like the patented braking system that prevents head-over handlebar accidents. Guardian bikes are the only kids' bikes designed and assembled in a USA factory, ensuring top-notch quality and durability. They're built to last and make perfect hand-me-downs. Join the hundreds of thousands of happy families by getting a Guardian bike today. Their holiday sales have begun, offering the biggest deal of the year. Save up to 33% on bikes, no code needed. Plus, get free shipping and a free bike lock and pump with your first purchase after signing up for their newsletter. Visit GuardianBikes.com to take advantage of these deals and secure your holiday gifts today. Happy riding!
And now it's time for the lightning round.
Man, I wish someone would pour water on me and I would turn into
Pour some sugar on me.
Yes, and water.
And water.
And water. Hydration.
Yeah. Okay. So for today's lightning round, we want to know what's on your meal plan this week, maybe that you're most excited about. Mandy?
All right. When we're filming this, it's around Halloween and my kids love a good themed meal.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a mummy calzone, which was just a calzone. And then I wrapped it up and made it look like a mummy.
That's
We're
cute.
also
Cute.
crock-pot carnitas burritos. 3-ingredient carnitas in the crock pot. Shred it up, make burritos with it. Delicious. A ravioli bake. Also so simple. Throw a bunch of stuff in a 9x13 gooey goodness pasta. We had mummy dogs. That's a good one.
Please tell me that's hot dogs. Please tell me that is just some hot dogs.
It is.
You
but
could
can
make
I
mummy
tell
dogs
you?
tonight.
I love hot dogs. Yeah.
Can I tell you a
tell us.
secret?
I love
Because
secrets.
It doesn't have to be a mummy. You can just make this recipe. It's hot dogs wrapped. I make a homemade crescent dough, but if you're not a homemade girly, you could just do crescent dough from the store. And you wrap them up in crescent dough and bake them. And it's like this beautiful blend between hot dogs and corn dogs, but it's also it would be great for New Year's. Everybody would love you for New Year's. It's so good.
Jill's in a blanket. That's what we're gonna call it.
Yes.
Jill's in a blanket.
I'm somewhere else now. I am not podcasting. I'm imagining hot dogs.
Okay, well, I'll go. I'll let Jill come back to us and I will go. Okay, so I will pull up my meal plan right now because my brain doesn't hold information for long.
You keep it digitally.
Yeah, I do.
In an app?
Yeah, of course. So tonight, actually, we had an emergency Sunday, so I couldn't make what I wanted to make Sunday, so that pushed everything forward or back. I don't know. Last night was salads. I actually had a salad with just like chicken, rotisserie chicken on it, but we had a leftover rotisserie chicken. And I saw on Instagram this recipe for a 5-ingredient avgolemono soup. And I love Greek food. And so I tried it and it turned out pretty good. I brought the leftovers today for lunch. But I didn't have it last night. I had a salad last night and brought, because it only made 2 servings because it was only half a rotisserie chicken. I got unstuffed peppers.
Yum.
Sheet pan roasted chicken with veggies. And my veggies are, I have Brussels sprouts, asparagus, and carrots.
Yeah.
So I will probably make all of them at the same time, but only do 2 because I think I have more sheet pan chicken. We'll see. Spaghetti and meatball and a roasted chicken apple kale salad.
Yum.
Yeah, I love kale salads.
Look at you go.
Yeah. Oh, and then on Sunday I got a rosemary lemon chicken bake.
These are all new words coming out of your mouth. Like you're good at coming up with new things.
Oh, wow. I'm gonna spoil this for people. I pay for an app.
You know what?
This isn't me.
Girlies, I pay for an app that has options and I plug them into my days. Like I've got my my breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks all planned out with recipes from.
I love that.
Yeah.
You love
So
a good
there
resource.
you go.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a type A person. You can just know how to download an app.
Yeah.
And let it
and
do
you
it
have
for
to pay
you.
money. Like if you want somebody else to do it for you, like
Yes.
Mandy, like you sell meal plans.
Yeah.
You could have Mandy do it for you, but you will have to pay some money. So it honestly, it's a seasonal thing for me. Sometimes I want to do it myself, and some seasons I don't want to do it myself.
Yeah.
And I pay. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing.
Yes.
It's very seasonal.
Yes. But you know what, though? I think sometimes people overcomplicate it in their brain because they think, oh, I'm spending a little bit of money, right? Like, I'm paying this PlandyMandy girl $12.99. It's like, okay, yes, you are. However, is it helping you save way more than that at the grocery store? Or is it helping you avoid stopping for takeout, which is going to cost you a solid $50? I think people sometimes don't think about that income and output of you're paying someone, but this is their job and they're probably doing it really well to help you save more than you're spending.
Yeah, it helps me save time to make it sustainable so that I stick with it. And now that I have this, I eat out so much less. Like there was 6 weeks that I just didn't eat out at all.
Not to mention the skill set that you build because you get to experience what an expert has created for you. Like we get to see through you, Mandy, 10 years of experience. Here's how you can reduce your food waste rather than just trying to hack it yourself and feeling like really bummed that you can't do it yet because you're just starting out. So I've learned so much through like learning from other people on Instagram or just yourself, these podcast interviews. I don't think we can do it alone. I think sometimes we do have to pay for it or we're going to spend the time researching it ourselves.
Yeah.
For me, speaking of paying for convenience, this week is a weird one for me. We just got back from like a 2-week trip to Europe, which was very lovely and very fun. And I will often, when I'm gone for a long time, give myself the gift of a meal delivery kit upon my return. And I take advantage of the intro offer. So this is a meal kit delivery I've never received before. So I paid $80 for 5 meals, 4 servings each meal. There's only 2 of us in our household, but to your point, Mandy, I like to make a lot at once and I'll either freeze it or it'll be another meal for another day. So essentially like 10 meals for my husband and I for $80. So it wasn't even like that expensive.
No.
So I haven't had to go grocery shopping now in returning home. And it really kind of eliminates a lot of what I'll need to buy. Now I'll need to get like some fruits and stuff for us to be able to have breakfast. But it really has taken the stress out of kind of coming home and getting back into the rhythm and needing to have a meal plan and go grocery shopping and remember what I have in my pantry. It showed up the day we got back and food is decided. And that feels like such a kindness to me.
Yeah, that really does help with you avoiding like eating out even more because you've been eating out on vacation. The last thing I want to do when I get home is eat out more because I haven't had time to go.
But it feels like whiplash to be like, get back into the groove of things and like come up with what you're making and quick get yourself to the grocery store. It's just like, I have a few days now before I have to get to the grocery store, which feels so great. I'm not going to keep receiving the meals, but this is a really helpful, like soft landing for this first week home.
Yeah, it's a stepping stone. I heard someone recently say, give yourself permission to be a beginner. And I really loved that because I think when you're talking about budget stuff, if you haven't learned those skills yet, you are a beginner and you're not going to do it great. Or like what you're saying, you have a transition period. It's like you don't have to commit to paying for that service forever. Just a short period of time as a stepping stone is okay. You're a beginner.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Mandy, for all of your insight and tips. For those who really want to learn more from you or even get your meal plans, how can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram. On Instagram, I'm plandy.mandy, and I actually share free recipe videos there every day, so you can come and try some stuff out for free. My meal plans are also on Etsy, and those are fully built meal plans, pre-shopped grocery carts, pre-counted macros, the whole 9 yards. And I'm also PlandyMandy on Etsy as well.
Lovely. Thanks so much, Mandy.
Thanks.
Of course. Thank you.
I loved all of that. And if you actually want to check out Mandy's meal plans, she's given us a 30% off code. Use Frugal Friends 30. Just search PlandyMandy on Etsy, where her meal plans are, and use the code Frugal Friends 30 for 30% off.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love hiring it out for convenience when it's needed.
I know.
As you just heard in our lightning round.
And when we were talking about it, I was like, this sounds so like not stereotypically frugal. There's going to definitely be somebody that comes at us and is like, they're talking about spending more money to save money on groceries. And in reality, sometimes, and I hate this saying, and I'm going to say it out loud.
Are we going to say it at the same time?
Sometimes you have to
spend money to make money. So close.
Yeah, so close. But still true. Spend a little to save a lot. And that is not always the case. A lot of the times that comes like out of procrastination spending, where we spend when we don't need to make us feel like we're doing something. But there are definitely seasons where spending a little to save a little time and sanity is what causes you to save more in the long run.
And again, I can't highlight enough how much it can teach us the skill that we need to eventually be able to do it on our own.
Mm-hmm.
That we can't just immediately start and have flawless, low waste ingredient overlapping throughout the whole week. When we are able to purchase, whether it's a meal kit or a meal plan or whatever it is, that can almost become a template for us over time. So I don't think we have to feel locked in, but it's nice to have these resources.
I mean, I just talked to a friend who is doing YouTube, and he's paying just for the thumbnails of his video, like $300 or $400 a thumbnail, right? And he told me, I don't plan to do this forever. Like, yes, that is stupid expensive. That's obnoxiously expensive. You could get these done for $50 a piece. But he spends a lot of money because he wants to take time learning from somebody who's in the top of their game, who is obsessed with the psychology of YouTube thumbnails, and learn what they do to get these really high converting thumbnails so that eventually he can just do it himself.
Yeah, that's great.
Sometimes, it's not always about spending money all the time, but spending money in the seasons where it's most beneficial to you to save even more. Thank you for listening. We love reading your kind reviews. And if this episode helped you, I hope that you will leave a rating and review, kind of like DJL1952. Happens to be 5 stars. And they say funny and useful. I enjoy listening to the show very much. The stories of folks who have paid off significant debt are inspiring. Shows about investing and financial planning are educational. The shows that discuss various strategies for saving money on everything from groceries to clothing provide lots of useful tips. All information is provided with big doses of humor.
Oh,
thank you, DJL.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for leaving that review. It really does help us. And if you have not left us a review before and you are enjoying this show, we really encourage you to do that. It only takes a minute and it helps us immensely. It helps potential new listeners find us, know what the show is about. And it's just good. It's just good for us. And then we read them on the show, and that's fun too. So it creates content for us. So thank you.
Frugal Friends is produced by Eric Siriani.
Okay, Jen.
Okay.
Oh, you have something for me? Oh,
well,
my.
Last episode, we didn't get to talk about FinCon.
Okay.
So not many people will know what FinCon is. It is for financial media creators. So your favorite podcasters, your favorite YouTubers, your favorite Instagrammers,
bloggers,
your favorite media creators, favorite media creators.
In the personal finance space.
Only in the personal finance. Although there was a interior decorator there.
Oh, wow.
Who was there to meet.
She's like, why am I here?
She was there on purpose to meet real estate investor influencers to get her work in front of them.
Smart.
Yeah, because, real estate, like housing, is still in personal finance. So I have to tell you that I am never more wined and dined than I am when I am at FinCon. And I get to hang out with so many cool people and do so many things without my children.
and without your business partner. We should probably update everyone that Jen goes to FinCon and I, Jill, choose not to. Okay. I went one time and that was enough.
And everybody every year asks, because I go and I room with my friend Caroline from CarolineVenzel.com, and they always think Caroline is Jill. And then I say, she says, we're frugal friends, but we're not the frugal friends. And people are like, where's Jill? And this year I had to say, Jill's in Europe. And they were like, lucky. And I was like, And they're like, where? And I was like, she told me, and I don't remember because I haven't seen her in a month.
Yeah, it was back-to-back hurricanes for us. And then I went to Europe.
Europe and FinCon. And everyone asked about you. Everyone said hello.
Thank you.
And I ate. I went to a surf and turf dinner and I ate an extra surf.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What was your favorite food and drink, Bevy, you got in being wined and dined at FinCon?
Okay, so I'm going to lose my frugal influencer card on this, but that surf and turf was the most immaculate dinner I've ever had.
Well, it was provided for you, so you still get to keep your card.
No, I was there on a fintech company's venture capital money. And then the best drink I had was an espresso martini from the Ritz-Carlton. And it was so good. I went back the last day and I had 2, but I didn't pay for either of them.
I love that. You're totally keeping all your cards right now. Even your credit card had stayed in your pocket.
The first one I did pay for was a $21 martini.
Oh, wow.
And I went back and intended to buy another $21 martini. And I was just lucky enough that I could have 2 without paying for them.
Wow.
Because I walked out. No, it was 2 different friends got each round.
Oh, that's so kind of them.
I know.
Wow. It pays to have friends.
It does pay to have friends, for sure. I've been in the personal finance game for like 10, 15, 20 years.
I'm so glad you had a nice time.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad we're back together.
Same.
Never leave me.
Okay.
Traveling to see your fave sports team is cool, but traveling with Amex Platinum for the big game is even better.
Right this way.
With access to dedicated card member entrances at select events, you can skip the line. And with access to the Centurion Lounge,
He shoots a 3.
you can catch the next game on the way home. That's the powerful backing of American Express. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/withAmex. Card member entrance access not limited to Amex Platinum Card.
Your teen requested a ride, but this time, not from you. It's through their Uber Teen account. You probably drive your teenager around. A lot. They have gymnastics club, science club, rec soccer club, school soccer club, and 3-hour clarinet club on Saturday night. Perfect. Now, with an Uber Teen account, you can be there even when you can't. It's an Uber account that allows your teen to request a ride under your supervision. They ride with a highly rated driver. And with live trip tracking, you can follow along the whole ride.
Thank you.
Add your teen to your Uber account today. See app for details.
This is Dr. Laurie Santos from the Happiness Lab. Many people have questions about how to improve levels of happiness. Living a healthy lifestyle is one sure way of increasing happiness. And a good place to start is with your oral health. Just a few small changes to your oral care routine, such as changing your toothpaste to Colgate Total, can lead to beneficial changes in your oral health. Colgate Total helps stop oral health problems like gingivitis and cavities before they start, because preventing oral health problems is a lot easier than treating them. Be dentist ready and get Colgate Total at shop.colgate.com/total.
Vitamin Water was born in New York City because New Yorkers needed a drink that can do it all. Because we can do it all. Like walk 30 blocks in under an hour, follow 4 of the city's sports teams at once, and spend all day in the Chinatown Arcade. Drink Vitamin Water. It's from New York.
When designing and building the world around us, every detail counts. Every stakeholder's input is crucial. That's why professionals across disciplines and projects rely on Bluebeam's easy-to-use software to communicate clearly, collaborate effectively, and speed up everyday tasks. Try Bluebeam free for 14 days. No credit card required. For a limited time, Bluebeam is offering iHeartRadio listeners 20% off a new subscription. Visit Bluebeam.com today and use promo code iHeart20 at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. Limit 1 transaction per customer.